look at
Just
what happened
the average
last
viewer.
night. Senator Ted Cruz left one thing out last night in his 23-minute speech, that endorsement of Donald Trump.
If you love our country and love your children as much as I know that you do, stand and speak and vote your conscience. Vote for candidates up and down the ticket who you trust to defend our freedom and to be faithful to the Constitution. The enthusiasm of the New York delegation. We must make the most of our moment to fight for freedom, to protect our God-given rights, even of those with whom we don't agree. We will unite the party, we will unite the country by standing together for shared values, by standing for liberty. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States of America.
Okay, as the speech came to a close, as Willie mentioned, who else but Donald Trump stepped out of the wings, walking to the VIP box with his family. Amid the commotion and jeering, Heidi Cruz, the senator's wife, had to be escorted from the room as Trump supporters yelled at her. This morning, what is a matter of dispute is when the Trump campaign read Cruz's remarks. Jason Johnson, chief strategist for Cruz for President, tweeted that Cruz told Trump directly 2 days ago, and later added, quote, "Since it's obvious the shock is contrived, let me ask, what the hell did they expect from the son of the man who killed JFK?" That's pretty funny.
Okay, that's
Lighten
good.
up. And
That's good, Jason.
And when Paul Manafort was asked if Cruz told Trump 2 days ago that he wouldn't endorse in the speech.
Hey, Mike, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good
Manafort said, quote, "That's not quite accurate," claiming they got the text late and didn't make any changes, adding that since Cruz came in second, Trump thought he deserved the opportunity.
Donald Trump made the offer to speak without any conditions. He thought Senator Cruz might have been a little bit more politically smart.
You know, Newt brought up the point, and I thought it was a very good point in his speech, Willie, that Trump has allowed everybody to come on stage, whether they endorsed him or not, and let him speak. You know, at first he gets booed on day one for shutting down the process, and then people are critical of him for letting somebody speak who doesn't agree with him. I think it makes him look stronger. And to tell you the truth, he doesn't really care whether Ted Cruz never has cared whether Ted Cruz endorsed him or not. He'll use whatever he gets to his advantage.
And the Trump campaign cannot be surprised what happened. I don't
No,
think they were surprised.
I don't think they thought about it for a
They know
second.
that this is a guy in Ted Cruz that Donald Trump called Lion Ted Cruz every day for 6 months, who questioned whether or not Ted Cruz's father was involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy, who tweeted out pictures suggesting that Heidi Cruz's looks were not as good as Melania's looks. This was relentless. So when this guy gets up on the stage and Ted Cruz called Donald Trump a pathological liar and on and on, you can't be surprised. And plus, they had the text beforehand, so they knew exactly what was going to happen.
And again, I mean, Mika, you can certainly understand why he wouldn't endorse Donald Trump. Donald Trump gave him 1,001 reasons not to endorse Donald Trump. But don't come to his convention. Make no mistake,
and
this is Donald's convention.
His party, his platform, his event. And Ted Cruz came in here and did something for himself.
Well, it didn't work out
well,
that way.
and the problem is when you do that, we're not just talking about playing by Marcus of Queensberry rules. You hurt yourself. Ted Cruz last night, make no mistake of it, cut himself off from getting the nomination in 2020. He just enraged 50% of the Republican Party. They won't forget it, just like they didn't forgive Chris Christie showing up for a couple of minutes with Barack Obama. after Hurricane Sandy.
The energy in the hall last night as the evening ended was, let's rally around our guy. This is our guy now, Donald Trump. If they come in tonight and keep that momentum going, I think the reception for his speech, even amongst some Cruz delegates and Trump skeptics, will be stronger and more positive because of what happened last night.
Again, the most telling moment, for me at least, while you're watching all of this unfold, what were the interviews of the Texas delegation. Strong Cruz supporters with Cruz buttons on saying, you know, he let us down. I wish he would have done the classy thing and endorsed our nominee. We've got to beat Hillary. And that's what they're looking at. When Ted Cruz goes up there, they're looking. All the delegates in there are looking at it as an endorsement of not voting for the Republican and helping Hillary win.
Absolutely no doubt that it did not play well in the hall for Ted Cruz. And I think just the outstanding question to go to the point Mike started out with was, you know, Cruz is making a bet that there's a bunch of people, you know, around the country who are conservatives who don't believe Donald Trump is a conservative, and that he will look like Nostradamus if Trump loses in the fall.
Yeah.
I don't know how the speech played out the hall in conservative precincts around the country that are still never Trump. I don't know how big those are, and I don't know how it played. But that's a big gamble to take, as opposed to doing what you said, Joe, which would have been just to sort of stay home and be a critic in exile, as opposed to a critic in this kind of very full frontal way.
Let's look at the reaction that we had so far. It was decidedly mixed. Some applauded the senator in the room and on Twitter, but the Washington Post reports that when Cruz tried to enter billionaire Sheldon Adelson's suite, he was turned away. And while Newt Gingrich tried to smooth things over, many high-profile Republicans took their turn to lambaste Cruz.
Now, I think you misunderstood one paragraph that Ted Cruz, who was a superb orator, said. Ted Cruz said, you can vote your conscience for anyone who will uphold the Constitution. In this election, there is only one candidate who will uphold the Constitution. So, to paraphrase Ted Cruz, the only possible candidate this fall is the Trump-Pence Republican ticket.
It was an awful, selfish speech by someone who tonight, through the words he said on that stage, showed everybody why he has richly earned the reputation that he has on Capitol Hill.
He's a fraud, he's a liar, he's self-centered, and he disqualified himself for ever being considered for president of the United States.
That was cute. You know, don't stay home in November. Vote from the people that you like from top to the bottom of the ticket. I just think it was an awful performance by someone who showed himself tonight to not be a man of his word.
Tonight, this is the Ted Cruz that I've known, unfortunately. He cannot be trusted, and he's not a true Republican. He's not a true conservative. He's totally self-centered. Tonight, I never saw such outrage and anger on the floor. He's more of a disgrace now than ever, absolutely. He disgraced himself, he disgraced the party, and the party should never consider him again for office.
Okay. Well, Governor, yeah.
You know, in a way that I certainly don't understand, but certainly appreciate, if the Trump campaign did indeed see the text of Cruz's speech hours ahead of time, Donald Trump used Ted Cruz very well last night.
Yeah, to bring everybody together.
Unified the party and made himself look like a bigger man.
Yeah, and again, didn't strike out in anger.
Right.
And was smiling while Cruz was walking off the stage booing.
There was clearly some organic booing. I mean, I was sitting with the West Virginia delegation. They were not being whipped into a frenzy, but we ran into Paul Manafort after the convention closed for the night and asked him, did you all whip the booing? Did you all encourage people to boo? And there's mixed reporting on that. He gave us an evasive answer, although a giant Cheshire cat grin. Some people say they didn't want people to boo. It seems to me clear that the boos had an upside and a downside. The booing created this notion that the convention was unified for Trump and against Cruz. On the other hand, it made the story. If the booing hadn't occurred, there wouldn't be this giant story.
Trump wants the story. He always wants the story. He wants the controversy. He wants the reality TV show. He wants the attention. And
well, he got it.
And people are talking. And people are talking about this convention this morning much more than
Yeah.
I mean, nobody ever talks about conventions other than, you know, in 2008. Wow, did you see
Yeah, but
Barack
think
Obama?
about what the Democrats are going to be able to do with this next week by just having a unified, fun, organized, really good convention with incredible speakers. I mean, what are you going to remember? Unless something happens tonight, you're going to remember a few speeches from the kids that really stood out, that made you think, wow, they're awesome. And you're going to remember lock her up, like with fists in the air, and hatred in people's eyes, and booing of Ted Cruz, one former presidential candidate, to the point where he and his wife are booed out of the room. I mean, this is kind of an ugly memory so far.
Well,
oh, and the plagiarized speech on the first day.
His speech tonight, though, will be the big.
And the air
listen.
kiss. I'll remember the air kiss.
You know, the thing is, though, and you guys have said it.
We need to talk about that.
At the end of this week, you're going to remember the kids doing a great job.
Great job.
And you're going to remember Donald Trump's speech. And I would be surprised if Donald Trump didn't pull in record numbers for his speech.
Well,
and if Donald Trump delivers tonight, everything else is like, you know, it's like Hermit's
Just right
Hermits.
now, that's what I see.
And Hermit's Hermits are great, but it's like Hermit's opening up for the Beatles at Shea Stadium. I don't even know if they open up for the Beatles at Shea Stadium, but I know this. Everybody talks about the Beatles at Shea Stadium, you know, 51 years later. And Trump, politically, is going to have, in the political arena, that explosive effect, for better or for worse.
Totally, you know, I repeated it now multiple times, but now the pressure on the speech is so high, because really what the press narrative is at this point, and the press narrative is what people, I think, hear, is 3 days of screw-ups. So now, here it is, Donald Trump gives a great speech, and it's the incredible comeback. Donald Trump saves his own convention, walks out of here having triumphed over all the other screw-ups that have happened over the week, or not, in which case the whole thing is pictured as having been one giant flameout. But it just heightens everything about tonight. Tonight was always going to be a big thing. Now it's kind of, he has the opportunity to really set the narrative in stone, either pro or positive or negative.
You know, one of the great stories I've heard from this entire campaign came from you guys when you were in Iowa. And you said Hillary Clinton was going around the Iowa State Fair, and there were hundreds of people gathered around her, and it was sort of clunky, and the Secret Service people were all gathered around, and she was going to get a corn dog and doing this.
Pork chop on a stick.
Pork chop on a stick. And in the midst of all of that,
oh, yeah.
a helicopter flies right overhead, and everybody stops with their pork chops on the stick. They just stare up, and everybody just whispers the words, Trump. It was like out of a movie.
Well, it happened again.
It happened yesterday.
Yes, earlier in the day. Poor Ted Cruz. I just think that.
By the way.
Really?
Said nobody in the world, but go ahead.
Okay. But the problem is that, like, okay, Trump and Cruz crossed paths again at a rally Cruz was holding in Cleveland, and what people are saying perfectly sums up the 2016 race in 44 seconds.
In an amazing campaign field of 17 talented, dynamic candidates, we beat 15 of those candidates. Our party now has a nominee. And I don't know. Jeff, did you email them to fly the plane right when I said that?
Couldn't see it in that shot. The plane was dragging a banner that said "Surrender Dorothy" on it.
Jeff, what is he doing? He can't help himself.
Ted Cruz?
Yes.
I don't know.
Take your Shakespeare and
So
go home.
Two versions of the same scene yesterday. During the day, it was the plane silencing Ted Cruz, and then at the end of his speech in the hall, it was Donald Trump himself coming into the room,
and people
silencing
dragging
Ted
his
Cruz.
wife out. I mean, it's just horrific. All right, on that note, there is so much more ahead.
Oh my gosh, there's a ton of
Former governor and former RNC chairman Haley Barbour, Republican Congressman Jeb Hensarling, and Democratic Senator Al Franken, who's on the stump for Hillary Clinton. And up next, Donald Trump Jr. joins us live on set. Why his famous father might not be the only one in the family with a political future. You watch